A gentle timeline of Iran's transformation, ***. Imagine the soft, crinkling sound of pages turning, followed by a deep, warm, and unhurried voice beginning to speak. Its rhythm gentle as a slow-moving river. Closing parenthesis ***. My dear friends. Settle yourselves, then, let the day's weariness slip away. Like sand through relaxed fingers, tonight, let us journey together, not through physical space, but along the winding tributaries of time. We'll follow the quiet currents that carried Iran from the middle years of this last century towards a profound transformation. It was a journey not of sudden leaps, but of deepening tides, of seeds planted long before they visibly broke the earth. Like the patient formation of stars in a distant nebula, events gathered their own momentum, each incident a whispering step towards an unforeseen shore. Gather round the hearth of memory, and let your mind drift with the tale, the seeds of discontent. Early foundations where the riverbed shifts ***. Picture, if you will, the year 1953. The air over Tehran is thick with the scent of jasmine and the dust of uncertain futures. A democratically chosen steward, Mohammad Mossadegh, a somewhat frail figure cradling a warmth bottle, but burning bright with a fierce love for his land, had dared to reclaim its own wealth, the oil flowing beneath ancient earth. He is a man whose passion runs deep, like an underground spring. But across vast oceans, others watched, eyes narrowed, measuring currents. A quiet coup, like a serpent gliding through tall grass, uncoiled. Orchestrated from afar by the CIA and British hands, it eased Mossadegh aside. Picture the tanks rumbling onto Ferdowsi Avenue, silencing voices that sought sovereignty. Yes, the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, returned to his peacock throne. But, my dear listener, feel the delicate thing that was bruised that day. Fractured, like fine porcelain, the fragile trust, millennia in the weaving, between the people and the crown, became cracked, that foreign scent on the wind, distrust. It settled deep in the soil, like a forgotten seed waiting for moisture. Time flowed onward, a decade passing like cloud shadows over the Alborz mountains. The Shah, dreaming of dragging Iran by its collar into a new age, unfurls his grand white revolution. Oh, the ambition shimmered. Lands were broken up, given to those who tilled them, though many soldiers received chunks too large to farm alone. Schools blossomed. Girls and boys sat side by side in classrooms staffed by earnest young men and women. The literacy corps, bringing knowledge to villages untouched. Women stepped into new paths, casting ballots, entering professions previously closed. Cities hummed with construction. Asphalt veins pulsed with imported automobiles, yet ... Beneath this polished surface, a tremor began. Can you feel it? Notice the face of the old mullah in a dusty village near Qom. His gaze follows the new asphalt road slicing past ancient adobe walls, bringing tractors, but also cinemas and unveiled women. His heart, woven with generations of tradition, feels the deep tear of ***, the fever of the West. Land reforms often resulted in fractured fields too small to thrive. Urban centers swelled, Tehran, like exhausted lungs, drawing in hungry souls who choked on concrete promises while a wealthy few built palaces glittering like misplaced jewels upon exhausted ground. That white revolution, for many wide-eyed country folk and watchful clerics, it felt less like spring and more like an abrupt, chilling wind stripping away the familiar bark of their ancient tree. The chandelier of injustice still hung brightly in the ballrooms. Its flickering light barely reached the dim alleys where the seeds of discontent, watered by disappointment, began to put down stubborn roots. The gathering storm, rising tensions, whispers claimed the wind ***. The 1970s dawned, my friends, heavy with expectation and unease, like the still air before a desert storm. Iran's coffers overflowed with petrodollars, plucked from the earth like black gold, yet the bounty flowed like a capricious river, flooding gleaming skyscrapers and military arsenals, while leaving the fields of everyday life parched. Remember this old truth: wealth, unmindfully sown, can grow thorns. Inflation gnawed at wages like an unseen termite. The Shah, perhaps hoping to still the growing rustle in the reeds, locked the very doors of discourse in 1975. The Rastakha's party became the ***only** vessel allowed upon the political sea. He who is not with us, it was proclaimed, is against the state. Imagine the silencing. Like music stopping abruptly in a crowded square. Professors felt their tongues grow thick, Poets confined their verses to holologues. Lawyers found their scales mysteriously unbalanced. Dissent became a whisper behind ancient wooden doors, a knowing glance exchanged in the tea-house gloom. It feels familiar, doesn't it? History reminds us, silence enforced is a fragile dam built upon a rising reservoir, but water is relentless, just like the spirit. When great rivers are dammed, they carve hidden channels. So it was in Iran, sacred spaces, the cool sanctity of the mosque. The murmurs rising beneath ornate tiles became unexpected hearths, community, faith, shelter, ideals. They gathered there, protected not by stone walls alone, but by ancient inviolable tradition. It was here that quiet conversations grew rhythmic, like prayers. Here that leaflets appeared like mystic scrolls. And then the whisper gained wings. Little plastic rectangles, coiled with brown magnetic tape, sons and daughters arriving near or far carried them carefully in their pockets. These cassette tapes, humble messengers of the new age, carried the sharp, resonant voice of an exiled scholar, Ayatollah Khomeini. Recorded in distant Najaf, then Paris, sermons condemning the Shah's sacrilegious embrace of the four in his tyranny, his neglect of the soul of the nation. Circulated like sacred texts. This voice, unyielding as granite, resonated deeply in homes from Tabriz to Shiraz. It bypassed the state's heavy hand entirely. Imagine a lone voice, amplified 1,000-fold by sheer conviction and cheap, wandering plastic. A slow dawning recognition began. There was another vision, anchored in time. Honored Earth. And then hear the cautious shuffle. Feel the collective intake of breath. Late autumn, 1977. The Gulf Institute in Tehran. Not a mosque, nor a clandestine meeting. Foreign ground, yet neutral. Poetry nights, they called them. Gathered were not revolutionaries yet, but writers, thinkers, artists, seed-seeking light, pushing against the packed stone of silence. Hesitantly at first, then with bolder cadence, voices rose. Poetry recited was not mere verse, it shimmered with barbed allusion. Critiques hidden within meter and metaphor pierced the air. The dam had cracked. People listened, nodding slowly. An electric hum arose, not angry, yet palpable. A realization bloomed like a fragile desert flower. If words, mere words, could gather fearlessly here, what other vessels might hold them? This was not a shout of revolt. It was the rustle of chains being tested. The gathering storm hadn't broken. But the temple floor trembled ever so slightly beneath their waiting feet. 3. The cascade of defiance. Revolution unfolds, water finds its way. 40 days. Remember the number, my children, in the rhythm of Shia Islam. 40 days mark a cycle of mourning, a profound period to grieve a soul's passage. In January 1978, a state newspaper, clumsy as a bullock in a porcelain shop, published a crude piece mocking Ayatollah Khomeini. Insulting this revered voice, it was like striking a sacred stone idol. Deeply unsettling. Students in the holy city of calm, hearts ablaze with indignation, poured like righteous torrents into the streets, young faces channeling ancient fury. The authorities answered not with dialogue, but with lead. Lives were extinguished, young scholars laid low. Picture the candlelit vigils, the murmured prayers rising like smoke. And understand, this completed the first sacred circle. 40 days later, a larger wave of mourners gathered, honoring both Khomeini and their fallen brothers. Again, stones flew, shots rang out, more loss, another 40-day cycle ignited, like blood soaking into thirsty ground. Each mourning period gave birth to a larger, more resolute outpouring. This was no longer protest, it had become a deeply ingrained ritual of rebellion, a churning river gathering force with each turn of the calendar. As the heat of summer 1978 soaked into the very bricks of Tehran and Abadan, a different tremor shook the foundations. Workers. Patient, weary, vital. Grew tired of waiting. Imagine the immense heartbeat of the nation slowing. First, the vital pulse. The oil fields began to cease their rhythmic pumping. Workers down tools. Then, the ancient arteries of commerce, the labyrinthine bazaars, where generations had haggled over spices and silks, grew ghostly quiet. Shutters slammed down, dust collected on counters. This was not idle complaint, It was the quiet power of refusal. The nation's lifeblood was choked off. Shopkeepers in Isfahan, factory workers in Tabriz, oilmen on the hot southern plains, their economic plight merged, like converging streams, with the deep religious fervor stirred by the relentless mourning processions. Their diverse grievances found a common language in the sermons echoing from Paris. The Shah and his unjust path must go. Darkness descended on the feast day of Eid al-Fitr, September 8, 1978. Tehran lay under martial law. Government announcements tried to echo across the city, stay indoors. Yet, amid the crisp air of early autumn, defiance blossomed. Thousands streamed towards Yalez Square, drawn by a magnetic mixture of faith, desperation, and solidarity. They wore white, a sign of intended peace, but those tasked with enforcing the Sultan's wills only trespass. Bloated military tanks faced the crowds, machine guns bristled. Recall the vast silence that precedes horrific thunder? It descended, and then ... the sound erupted, not protest chants, but the terrible cacophony of massacre. Bullet-swept silence fell again. Hundreds now lay where peaceful demonstrations had stood, white shrouds stained crimson. They christened it Black Friday. Can you feel the shudder that passed through millions that day? Grief hardened into ice-cold resolve. Blood soaked into every story whispered afterwards. The Shah. For many, he was no longer an errant leader, but a personification of tyranny. The riverbanks were breached. The floodwaters of revolution could no longer be contained by threat or tear gas. Their path was set. For the inevitable shift. Final months, the swelling tide. The exiled scholar in Najaf seemed a distant constellation. Then came news. October 1978. Ayatollah Khomeini boarded a plane. Not eastward to Tehran, but westward to Paris, to quiet suburb named Neufchâteau. Why here, far from sacred soil? Perceive the quiet strategy. Paris, center stage of the world's gaze. Microphones clustered at his gate like electronic flowers. Cameras captured his every pronouncement, beaming them across continents. His face grew familiar on nightly news from this tranquil French refuge. Immaculately timed messages flowed like an unfailing spring. Technical vision, detailed governance. No, what resonated were themes unshakable as mountains. Islamic justice, the illegitimacy of the Shah's rule, the dignity of the Iranian soul. He offered not a 5-year plan, but an alternative sun around which orbits could shift. Foreign journalists amplified his voice, turning exile into the ultimate megaphone. The narrative now reached not just smuggled tapes in bazaars. But millions of living rooms. The slow drip of defiance became a constant, reassuring murmur in every ear. The compass needle swung decisively towards a specific, magnetic north. Approach now the poignant month of Muharram. Sacred time of Ashura, commemorating Imam Hussein's tragic stand against tyranny at Karbala centuries past. December 1978. Imagine a cityscape transformed. Tehran sees an eruption not of ash, but of countless souls. Millions, wreathed in pure white shrouds, a powerful symbol proclaiming readiness for martyrdom, poured onto the boulevards. Picture this human sea, over 10 million, they say, swelled peacefully through the capital, a river. Silent, determined, suffusing every street. Only one rhythmic chant. Roller live drums. Paced breathing. Allahu Akbar, God is great. And Margbar Shah, death to the Shah. No weapons clutched, no fists raised. Just an overwhelming tide of movement and unified voice, the most potent weapon, sheer numbers, disciplined by faith. It washed over the city, unstoppable, saturating its very spirit. The Shah, watching perhaps from a high window. What did he see? Not scattered protests, but the unified face of his nation's soul turned against him. His authority, like sand before a tidal wave, simply dissolved. Astonishingly, the soldiers who held the rifles. Their eyes met the sea, and their fingers hesitated on the triggers. The vast, quiet, unforgettable display paralyzed the might of the crown. January 1979, the Shah and Empress Farah, their aura flickered out like dying lanterns, stepped onto a plane departing Mehrabad Airport. No triumphal farewell, just the quiet turning of a key in the lock as they departed for a vague vacation. Their final act when trusting a loyal soldier, Prime Minister Bakhshar, to shield the throne. Yet, the nation had already chosen its path. Less than 2 weeks slipped past. Feel the tension punctuated only by millions holding their breath, then ... laden with potent symbolism. The exile's plane finally banked over Tehran. A French airliner descending through hushed skies. February 1, 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini stepped back onto Iranian soil after 15 long years. A reception awaited him ... immense ... oceanic, the barely contained energy of a people surged forth. It was a final, irrefutable assertion, soldiers guarding sensitive points. Made a quiet, crucial choice, laid down their arms, stepped aside, melted away, or simply switched allegiance. The imposing edifice of the imperial regime, hollowed out by its own actions and the relentless persistence of its people, crumbled virtually without battle. The churning river had reached its destination. The transition was ... complete. The echoing silence that followed the Shah's departure was filled not by power vacuums alone, but the sound of gates swinging open onto a future utterly transformed. ***, the voice slows further, softening like twilight embracing the landscape ... closing parenthesis ***, so we drift, dear listeners, along the riverbank of remembrance. From the first sharp crack of the 53 coup, through the unsettling currents of the White Revolution and the damned fury of the 70s, to the unstoppable flood of late 78 and January's quiet departure ... it feels ... inevitable, does it not? Like grains within an hourglass seeking their level, each step silenced another possibility. Deepened chasms, emboldened whispers, until they became roars in unanimity. Economic windfall could not mend distrust sown by outsiders' hands. Repression only forced conviction to find subterranean streams. The old world had eroded, grain by grain. Tonight, as your eyelids grow heavy, holding the immense weight of shifting centuries, remember the profound truth witnessed here. The transformation of nations often mirrors a patient courtship with time. Power, brazen and imposing in the noonday sun, can be gradually kindled by quiet words spoken beneath mosque domes, reasoning crackling on cassette tape winds ... poets naming whispered injustices. Millions seeking solace in pilgrimage ... becoming an unstoppable sea. The transformation was neither sudden nor blameless, nor was it easily wrought. It was decades seeking their natural conclusion. Like mountains weathering into fertile plains, sustained shifts in the hearts of many souls create landscapes that crown and scepter cannot forestall. Rest deeply now. Let the currents of history, patient, deep, and yes, ultimately unstoppable, flow gently through your dreams. They cradle the story of many lands. Cradle us all. Sleep ... sleep peacefully now. Beneath the quiet gaze of time, the river flows on. Asterisk a soft sigh, the faint rustle of cloth ... silence, asterisk hash oil, inequality, and the sleep of justice comb. Settle yourself deeper into the cushions. Dear listener, let the weight of the day soften around your edges. Tonight, we won't count sheep, but perhaps trace the patterns woven by something far more potent: oil, ambition, and the quiet, relentless arithmetic of injustice. Imagine, if you will, not stars, but the flickering glow of a kerosene lamp in a mud-brick village hut, its light struggling against a vast, encroaching darkness. This is the story of an economy that forgot its people, whispered in the rustle of banknotes and the sigh of empty stomachs, ***, wealth's illusion. The oil boom mirage, ***, picture a desert kingdom, suddenly awash in liquid gold. The year is 1973. Across the shimmering Persian Gulf, nations flexed their newfound muscle, and the price of oil. It quadruples. Imagine a vast, underground river of ancient sunlight, suddenly flowing faster, thicker. Into the coffers of Iran, it poured, a torrent of wealth unimaginable just years before, 4 times the revenue. It felt, my child, like a djinn unleashed from a lamp, promising palaces in the sand, and palaces they built. Oh, yes, grandiose highways snaked across ancient caravan routes, gleaming like silver ribbons under a relentless sun. Towering dams, monuments of concrete and ambition, strained to hold back mighty rivers. Modern cities sprouted, their steel skeletons clawing at the sky. Tehran pulsed with imported luxury. German automobiles purred down widened boulevards. French perfume scented the air in marble-floored boutiques, Swiss watches adorned wrists that had never known callous, but this glittering mirage, dear one, concealed a cruel thirst. While fortunes were made overnight by those close to the peacock throne, vast stretches of the land remained parched. Rural clinics, often just a bare room, perhaps with a weary doctor overwhelmed by need, lacking even basic medicines. Village schools, children gathered under the shade of a lone tree, sharing tattered textbooks, their teachers unpaid for months. The oil wealth flowed, yes, but like water poured onto stone, it ran off quickly, absorbed only by the privileged topsoil. And beneath the surface, a rot festered. They called it the Pahlavi Foundation, a name echoing charity, but functioning as a royal octopus. Its tentacles stretched everywhere: cement factories, mines, vast farmlands, hotels. Small merchants, the lifeblood of the bazaars for centuries, found themselves squeezed, want to build. Buy royal cement, priced high, want to farm. Compete against royal lands, subsidized and vast, resentment, like desert sand, began to seep into every crack of commerce. It wasn't just unfair competition. It was a monopoly draped in velvet, stifling the breath of enterprise. Then came inflation, the silent thief. While the price of oil soared, the wages of the tailor stitching fine suits, the driver navigating the new highways, the laborer mixing concrete for the grand projects, these remained stubbornly anchored. Yet, the cost of bread, of lentils, of the simple fuel for that kerosene lamp, it crept upwards, day by relentless day. Imagine carrying a basket, child, each month. It holds fewer essentials, yet feels heavier. The divide between the marble foyers of North Tehran and the cramped, dusty alleyways of the South deepened into a chasm. The rich bought imported luxuries, the poor counted grains of rice. Wealth, it seemed, wasn't a rising tide lifting all boats. It was a flash flood, sweeping away the humble dwellings while the grand yachts sailed smoothly on. **2. Rural whispers and urban cries *** now. Shift your gaze from the glittering capital. Travel with me, in the mind's eye, to the vast, sun-baked plains and rugged mountains. Here, whispers carried on the hot wind spoke of another broken promise: land reform. Peasants, bound for generations to the soil of absentee landlords, were told they would own their own patch of earth. Hope, fragile as a desert flower, bloomed. But the plots they received, child, they were often the leavings, arid scraps where the soil blew away like dust. Rocky hillsides where water was a distant dream. And crucially, no tools, no seeds of promise. No irrigation to coax life from the stubborn earth. The dream of ownership turned sour, a bitter harvest of disappointment. So, they left, packed meager belongings onto tired donkeys or crowded buses, abandoning the whispering fields for the roaring, indifferent city. Tehran's southern outskirts swelled like a bruise. Makeshift shelters cobbled from mud, tin, and despair, places like Kazana, Javadi, narrow alleys choked with humanity, open sewers, the constant hum of struggle. The city, built on oil wealth, offered them only its ragged hem to cling to. Men sought backbreaking day labor, women took an endless washing. Children ran barefoot through the dust. The grandeur of the north felt like a cruel joke echoing down the wind. Meanwhile, in the heart of the old city, another ancient heartbeat faltered: the bazaar. For centuries, these labyrinthine lanes of shops and workshops were Iran's economic and cultural soul. Skilled artisans hammered copper, weavers created magic on looms, merchants traded spices and stories. But the royal conglomerates, with their imported goods and state favors, cast a long shadow. The intricate web of trust and credit that sustained the bazaars frayed. Their profits dwindled, their influence waned. Economic discontent, my dear, is never just about coins. It seeped into their identity, their sense of place in the world. The bazaar became a crucible where resentment fused with tradition, forging a potent alloy of opposition, and the young universities expanded. Fueled by oil riches, a generation dreamt of becoming engineers, doctors, teachers, the architects of this modern Iran. They studied diligently, fueled by promises. But upon graduation, they faced a wall of silence. Offices filled with relatives of the well-connected. Factories automated or reliant on foreign technicians. The bloated state bureaucracy moved slowly, hiring based on loyalty, not merit. Joblessness, especially among the educated, became a specter haunting tea houses and family gatherings. Degrees gathered dust while frustration simmered. Promises of modernization rang hollow in ears attuned to the silence of opportunity denied. ******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** river of oil gold flowed most forcefully. The Shah, envisioning himself the heir to Cyrus, dreamed of regional dominance. He would be the policeman of the Gulf, and this dream had a price tag, etched not in rials, but in gleaming steel and roaring engines. Billions upon billions flowed not to clinics or schools, but to arms dealers in America, Britain, France. Phantom tanks, sophisticated fighter jets, vast fleets, weapons enough to intimidate neighbors, but draining the lifeblood from the nation's social fabric. Picture this, a single, gleaming F-14 Tomcat fighter jet, sleek and deadly. It's cost enough to build dozens of rural health clinics, staffed and stocked. Enough to fund scholarships for hundreds of bright village children. Enough to lay pipelines bringing clean water to parched towns. Yet, squadron after squadron took to the skies, while below, the foundations of society quietly crumbled. It was ambition measured in megatons, paid for in the currency of neglected needs. Then, the skies themselves seemed to turn against them. Drought. In 1977 and 1978, the rains failed. Crops withered in the fields the peasants had struggled to cultivate. Rivers dwindled, and in the cities, already strained by inflation, the price of bread, that most sacred staple, began a terrifying ascent. Bakeries, once places of warmth and the comforting smell of yeast, became battlegrounds of quiet desperation. Long lines formed before dawn, arguments flared over shrinking loaves. Mothers counted coins with trembling fingers, calculating how to stretch flour, stretch rice, stretch hope. The kitchen, the heart of the home, became a space haunted by the specter of hunger. Economic pain, child, is felt most acutely in the emptiness of a child's bowl, but despair, when it reaches a certain depth, can forge its own strength. From the very source of the nation's wealth came a powerful prayer, the strike. In the vast, complex refineries of Abadan, on the pipelines snaking across the desert, the oil workers, the men whose labor turned the ancient sunlight into power, laid down their tools. Their demands were simple, profound: fair wages to match the soaring cost of living, safety in their hazardous workplaces, dignity, the mighty flow of oil. The lifeblood of the regime and its ambitions slowed, then stopped. The silence in those refineries was deafening, a potent counterpoint to the roar of jet engines overhead. It was the economy itself holding its breath, a collective inhalation before the storm. Their halted labor echoed louder than any speech, a stark reminder that true power rests not just in palaces or arsenals, but in the hands that turn the valves. ***4. Dreams redistributed. The revolution, when it came, was a whirlwind of fervor, draped in the cloth of faith. But beneath the cries for political freedom, whispered through the crowds, was another yearning, older and more visceral, the dream of economic justice. It was murmured in breadlines, shouted on factory floors, etched on the faces of landless peasants. It wasn't just about the Shah. It was about the very distribution of life's necessities: bread, work, dignity, a fair share of the earth's bounty. The promise, unspoken yet deafening, was of resources finally flowing to the parched roots, not just the glittering crown. In the chaotic, heady days after the old order fell, dreams rushed into action. Vast estates of the old elite, the generals, the courtiers, lands often acquired through dubious means, were seized. Peasants, sometimes organized, sometimes acting in a fever of long-suppressed desire, moved on to these fields. Factories abandoned by fleeing industrialists were occupied by workers' councils. Was it impulsive justice, a chaotic, necessary reckoning? Or simply the inevitable, messy redistribution after decades of profound imbalance? My dear, that depends entirely on where you stood, whether you were finally receiving land or watching your inherited acres vanish overnight. Perspective, like the desert horizon, shifts with the position of the observer. And so, we return to the lamp in the hut, its flame still flickering. The fundamental question remains, echoing down the decades like a haunting melody: could the oil wealth, that river of ancient sunlight, ever have truly bought lasting stability? Could towering dams and supersonic jets ever compensate for the crumbling schoolhouse, the empty clinic shelf, the peasant's barren plot, the graduate's idle hands? Can prosperity built on such deep fissures of inequality ever be anything but a tremulous illusion, a palace built on shifting sands? The answer, whispered by history itself, seems etched in the quiet desperation of breadlines and the defiant silence of idle refineries. True stability, my child, rests not on the shifting price of a barrel, nor on the gleam of weaponry, but on a far more profound foundation, equity. On the understanding that a nation thrives only when its wealth nourishes its roots from the deepest desert wellspring to the highest mountain stream. When the harvest of the land and the labor of the people is shared with fairness, ensuring no kitchen knows the chill of hunger, no capable hand is left idle, no mind yearning to build is denied the tools. So, as your eyelids grow heavy, ponder this gentle, relentless truth: economies are not abstract machines. They are living tapestries woven from countless human lives, hopes, and struggles. Justice in this realm is not merely a political ideal. It is the essential bedrock of peace, the only lullaby deep enough to soothe the restless spirit of a nation. Let the quiet hum of that truth settle over you now, a balm against the world's harsh arithmetic. Sleep, dear listener, sleep, knowing that the most enduring structures are built not on oil or arms, but on fairness, shared harvests, and the quiet dignity of work rewarded. Rest now. The desert wind carries old lessons, but tomorrow holds the promise of wiser building. Faiths under tow. Religion as revolution's pulse imagine. My dear listener, the quiet hush settling over a dusty seminary courtyard in calm, as dusk paints the sky in hues of apricot and lavender. The air, thick with the scent of ancient manuscripts and brewing tea, carries whispered verses of the Quran. Here, beneath arched brick ceilings worn smooth by centuries of seeking hands, a profound resurgence was stirring. Not with the clamor of swords or the blare of trumpets, but with the patient turning of pages and the low murmur of theological debate. After the Shah's sweeping secular reforms pushing Western dress, sidelining Islamic courts, diminishing clerical sway, these hallowed spaces became sanctuaries. Like deep roots gathering strength beneath a parched earth, the seminaries of Qom and Mash had nurtured a defiant resilience. Within their hushed classrooms, shielded from the secret police's prying eyes, the intricate tapestry of Islamic law, the Sharia was meticulously preserved. Young scholars, faces illuminated by the soft glow of oil lamps, pored over texts centuries old, their teachers pointing not just to legal precedents, but to a sacred duty, the preservation of faith against a tide of enforced forgetting. This was no mere academic exercise, it was the slow, deliberate coiling of a spiritual spring, and guiding this quiet force was a voice emerging from exile. Picture Ayatollah Khomeini, not on a throne, but seated humbly on a carpet in the holy Iraqi city of Najaf in 1970. Around him, students leaned in, their eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight, as he spoke words that would ignite souls. His lectures, later transcribed and passed hand to hand like precious gems, performed a remarkable alchemy. He didn't merely criticize the monarchy. He framed it as kufr blasphemy against the very sovereignty of God, drawing on centuries of Shia theology mourning the usurpation of the rightful leadership of the imams. He declared the Shah's rule illegitimate, a modern-day echo of ancient injustice. He spoke not in dense, inaccessible jargon, but in the clear, resonant language of the mosque and the marketplace. Islam, he would say, his voice a low rumble on smuggled cassette tapes, is the religion of the oppressed who rise against the oppressor. This wasn't just politics. It was theology made visceral, transforming resistance from a civic act into a sacred obligation, and the humble village mullah. They were the Ankas, beyond leading prayers. They settled land disputes with wisdom drawn from scripture, collected zakat*, ensuring the poor weren't forgotten, and subtly, week by week, infused the familiar rhythms of Friday sermons with potent metaphors. The Shah became Pharaoh, his policies the whispers of Iblis Satan. The mosque, once solely a house of worship, became the beating heart of a nascent revolution, its pulse felt in every whispered conversation in the bazaar and every quiet nod of understanding after prayers. Now, close your eyes and feel the rhythm of profound sorrow transformed. See the narrow streets of Tehran or Shiraz filling not with celebratory music, but with the somber cadence of mourning. A young protester falls to the bullets of the Shah's soldiers. 40 days later, the community gathers not just to weep, but to remember, to reaffirm. This is the *arba'in*, the cycle of mourning deeply ingrained in Shia tradition, commemorating the 40th day after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. Each gathering swelled, not diminished, the crowds. The grief for the fallen protester seamlessly intertwined with the ancient grief for Hussein. Tears shed for Ali, shot in the square, became tears shed for Hussein, betrayed on the plains of Karbala in 680 AD. Each 40-day commemoration wasn't an end, but a renewal, a wave lifting the next wave higher, creating a relentless, perpetual momentum. The revolution rode on this tide of sacred sorrow. Then came Ashura*. Picture the 10th day of Muharram, streets thronged with masses clad in black. Men rhythmically beat their chests, in azani*, a deep, resonant thud echoing collective anguish. Chains swung in disciplined arcs, *, drawing blood in symbolic penance and solidarity. But in the charged air of the late 1970s, the reenactment of Hussein's martyrdom transcended historical remembrance. The Shah, his lavish lifestyle, his alliance with foreign powers, his suppression of dissent, he became the living embodiment of Yazid, the tyrant who slew the Prophet's grandson. Chants for Hussein became cries against the Pahlavi dynasty. Carrying the symbolic coffin *, wasn't just ritual, it felt like bearing the burden of the nation's oppression. The passion play *, depicting Hussein's death became a stark allegory for the present struggle. The clerics, masters of this symbolic language, didn't need explicit calls to arms, a sermon describing Yazid's corruption. His betrayal of Islamic values resonated with deafening clarity in the ears of listeners living under the Shah. Defiance wasn't presented as rebellion. It was framed as the highest form of piety, a sacred duty to emulate Hussein's ultimate sacrifice against injustice. The revolution marched forward on the drumbeat of ancient grief made urgently present. Even the most personal acts of faith began to shimmer with hidden defiance. Consider the simple hijab, the headscarf. For many devout women, it was always an act of modesty, a private covenant with God. But under the Shah's push for Westernization, where unveiled women were favored in offices and universities, choosing the scarf became a quiet, powerful statement. It transformed from an emblem of personal piety into a political uniform, a visible rejection of the regime's imposed identity. Silently, in streets and schools, it proclaimed, "We belong to a different order. Venture now into the intimate space of a believer's home." In corners adorned with images of the imams and small shrines glowing with votive candles, clandestine study groups gathered. Here, beneath the watchful eyes of Imam Ali or Hussein, the revolutionary fusion occurred. Verses of the Quran condemning oppression *, why should you not fight in the way of God for the oppressed, *, Surah An-Nisa 75, were read alongside pamphlets critiquing capitalist exploitation or advocating national sovereignty. Marxist critiques of class inequality blended, sometimes uneasily, with Islamic calls for social justice *. The sacred space of the home shrine sanctified the revolutionary discourse, making dissent feel divinely sanctioned. And then, there was the voice. Not booming from minarets, but emerging softly, intimately, from cassette players in living rooms and back rooms of shops. Khomeini, exiled first to Iraq, then to a suburb of Paris, became a disembodied guide. His sermons, recorded on these humble tapes, were smuggled across borders and mountains, passed from trusted hand to trusted hand. The act of playing them became a ritual. Families would gather close, children hushed. As that calm, unwavering voice filled the room, analyzing scripture, condemning the Shah, outlining the vision of an Islamic state. It transformed private devotion into a cell of public rebellion. Hearing Khomeini in your own home, away from the regime's ears, made the revolution personal, immediate, and profoundly spiritual. He wasn't just a leader. He was the *Imam*, a title laden with Shia expectations of righteous guidance. Speaking directly into the heart of the faithful, Khomeini's own exile became woven into the grand narrative of Shia suffering and redemption. His forced removal from Iran, his time in the holy cities of Iraq, Najaf, Karbala, and finally his sojourn in Neufel-le-Château, France, were framed not as defeat, but as purification, a mirroring of the trials endured by the imams. His return to Iran in February 1979 wasn't merely a political event. It was imbued with the aura of the awaited Mahdi the hidden 12th Imam. Millions flooded the streets, not just to welcome a man, but to witness the culmination of a sacred prophecy, as his Air France jet touched down. The sea of humanity wept, prayed, and chanted, Coda, Khomeini, Engelab, Islam. Inchgad, Khomeini, Revolution, Islam. His arrival felt like the return of rightful, divinely guided authority after centuries of worldly usurpation. The final act was framed as a divine mandate. In the referendum of April 1, 1979, the nation was asked a seemingly simple question: should Iran become an Islamic republic? The resounding yes, officially 98%, painted a picture of monolithic unity. Yet, beneath that stunning figure lay a complex tapestry of dreams. For some, it was a pure awakening of faith, the triumphant establishment of God's law on earth. For others, swept up in the revolutionary fervor against the Shah, it represented national independence and an end to tyranny. For Marxists, liberals, and nationalists who had marched alongside the religious masses, it was a hopeful, if vague, step towards justice. The unified yes masked this intricate mosaic of aspirations, all momentarily bound together under the powerful, unifying banner of faith. The revolution's final frame was thus presented as the undeniable will of the people, sanctified by divine approval. So, as your eyelids grow heavy, and the quiet of night envelops you, ponder this gentle question, like the soft chime of a distant bell: was this surging tide, this revolution propelled by ancient rituals and sacred symbols, truly an awakening of souls? A profound reconnection with a deep spiritual identity, a casting off of imposed foreign ways to reclaim a divinely ordained path? Or was it, perhaps, surrender to dogma? A channeling of righteous passion into an inflexible system, where the rich tapestry of dissent was ultimately woven into a single, authoritative design? The answer, dear listener, like the flickering shadows cast by that seminary lamp, may dwell not in stark light, but in the nuanced shades between. The spiritual current that moved mountains flowed with both the liberating power of faith reclaimed and the profound weight of absolute conviction. Rest now, and let the echoes of history's deep tides lull you towards peaceful slumber. Global shadows. For in hands in Iran's unrest gently, like soft rain on stone, settle now, and let your mind drift. Not to counting sheep, but to a land of desert wines and snow-capped mountains, where the echoes of empires once shaped the fever dreams of revolution. Imagine the scent of hot dust and jasmine in Tehran's alleyways, while far, far away, in distant capitals, men in quiet rooms drew lines on maps. These lines, my dear listener, were threads in a vast, trembling web. The Cold War, and in the fading years of the 1970s, Iran became a strange loom where these threads tangled, pulling in forces from every corner of a divided world, whispering promises and threats on the currents of geopolitics. Tonight, we trace these delicate imprints, the foreign hands in Iran's tremors, as shadows lengthening across history. We speak not of crashing drama, but the subtle drone of engines overhead, felt but unseen. I, the western anchor, a pillar casts a heavy shade. Picture an anchor dropped in Persian Gulf waters, forged in London and Washington. America's weary eye, grown heavy from Vietnam's jungle lakes, gazed upon the oil-rich sands near the Soviet realm and sought a firm mooring. They found it in the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. A figure wreathed in contradictions. The West named him policeman of the Gulf, a title heavy as his diamond-studded regalia. They saw only the gleaming surface, the jetpacks of F-14s, soaring like modern falcons, that secured the sky routes, the deep waterports sheltering tankers flooding the West with black gold. The formidable bulwark against the red tide creeping southward. American generals and British diplomats nodded in rooms scented with mahogany and cigar smoke. Here was stability, order, a non-communist pillar in a restless region. They fortified him. Mountain ranges of weapons shipments, forests of oil derricks, and racks of gleaming currency. But beneath the glittering city facades, something more lingered. A chill fog seeping into alleyways. It bore a name, Savak. Remember it as a whisper in tea houses suddenly going silent. A shadow that melted into the bazaar crowd, its gaze lingering too long. The sharp knock on a door just before midnight. These unseen watchers? Their grim choreography was often taught in classrooms, airless, fluorescent, lit places far across the Atlantic. American advisors, seasoned in the terrible arts of control, skills honed in places like Guatemala, the Philippines, taught the science of fear. Surveillance networks spun like intricate lace. The calibrated pressure points of interrogation. The crushing weight of the dossier. The fear they wove wasn't the hot, shouted terror of war. It was the slow, cold fear of the silent telephone, the unanswered letter, the neighbor who no longer meets your eye. It settled on Iran like permafrost, unseen, but felt in every bone. Then. A murmur of conscience, an attempt to soften the grip. President Carter, a man from the Georgia plains with flaxen words like human rights on his lips, gently tapped the monarch on the shoulder, a cautious, questioning tap. It asked of prisons and freedoms, yet ensured the weapons shipments continued. These half-hearted pressures were like trying to dam a rising flood with a lace handkerchief. The Shah, no longer feeling the absolute weight of Washington at his back, seemed to hesitate, his iron fist loosened, perhaps a millimeter, and in that sliver-less space, like the first crack in an ancient wall, a chorus long stifled found its breath. Students, merchants, mullahs, they saw the tiny yielding and heard not reproach, but permission. Carter, yearning for a moral beacon, had unintentionally fanned the spark into a beacon fire his establishment could not, and perhaps would not truly extinguish before the night turned. ***2. The communist whisper, echoes from the northern mist. ***, now shift your gaze north, to that vast expanse where the chill of Siberia seemed to creep downward. The Soviet Union watched the Shah fail with coiled interest, not opally, never that. Lenin's heirs were masters of the quiet gambit, the nudge at the edge of the inkwell, their instrument in Persia. The Tuta party, the masses, driven deep underground by years of Savak's frigid bite, surviving only in nervous whispers passed between trusted hands, they endured. As the Shah's pillars began to vibrate, oil workers laying down tools in Abadan, steel workers halting their roaring furnaces in Isfahan. Who was it that held the maps? Who drafted the leaflets, passed the message, coordinated the halting of trains? Often, it was Tuta's shadow nurses, weaned on Marxist text and Soviet whispers, who knew the patterns of protest. They understood the pulse of labor, its rhythms and stoppages. Their networks, like mycelium under the forest floor, provided the structure when chaotic dissent began to surge. They taught the efficient strike, the mass mobilization, tactics learned in Moscow's political academies or gleaned from shadowed corners of the communist world. Their influence wasn't a guiding hand on the helm. It was the grit under the runners of the sleigh. Look further still, to the jagged peaks of the northeast border, where Iran presses against the wilds of Afghanistan. Here, through the thin air, a tense whisper grew louder. Soviet tanks were fueling the demands of Afghan Marxists. The Shah responded, sending regiments loyal to his crown, clad in American fatigues and gripping M16s, patrolling those hard, mountainous frontiers. How many battalions, do you suppose, were shifted and pinned down? How many eyes and rifles pointed eastward, towards Kabul, while Tehran's own streets filled with chanting throngs? It was a subtle masterstroke. An orchestrated distraction hummed from Moscow. Not a grand military clash, but a constant pressure point, sapping the Shah's strength as the hearth cracked. But listen closely to the chants in Tehran's vast squares in 1978. Independence. Freedom. Islamic Republic. A strange fusion. The revolution's soul belonged to the black turban mullahs, not the red flags, yet. Woven into the heated cries were strands borrowed from the socialist tapestry, cries against exploitation, demands for the poor, denunciations of ghoulish landlords. The revolution, a moth drawn momentarily to the flickering Marxist flame of opposition, eagerly adopted its vocabulary of justice. But the core flame, the deep, beating heart demanding a return to God's law, that burned to hot, to purely Shia, to inherently Persian, for Soviet atheism's ice. Once the Shah's tyranny fell, that borrowed crimson cloth. It burnt swiftly to ash, discarded utterly because of what it overlaid. **3. Exile's diplomacy, sanctuaries sting. Our lens widens more west now, to the rain-dampened city of Paris, where autumn painted the leaves of Neufel, Les Chateaux crimson and gold. Here, in a simple, unremarkable villa that once belonged to a sweetmaker, lived an old man in flowing black. Ayatollah Khomeini, his brow heavy with profound sorrow. Exile, expelled from Saddam Hussein's Iraq, ironically. As Baghdad began its dangerous flirtation with Moscow, he arrived in France. France offered sanctuary like a cool cloth on a fevered brow. Officially neutral, quietly, perhaps intrigued. Crucially, uniquely, it offered access modern telephones, humming fax machines, airports, lifelines shattering the Shah's iron cloak around the exile. Journalists streamed down the lane, their cameras and notebooks transformed Khomeini's cloistered villa into the nerve center where revolution was broadcast. Sermons taped in Persian on mundane equipment crisscrossed the world, replaying in 1,000 mosques, their words inflaming resistance far more effectively than clandestine networks. This, unbeknownst to Paris at first perhaps, was a sanctuary enabling revolution, a microphone draped in Gallic velvet that amplified whispers into thunder. Consider Saddam Hussein, that fierce desert hawk in Baghdad. His expulsion order forcing Khomeini from Najaf, where his influence was complex but contained among Shia faithful. This drive to the airfield was a dagger unwittingly aimed at his own side. Saddam sought easy favor with the Shah, whose regime arced along his border. With Washington, who saw Iraq as a potential card against Iran. The bitter irony. Instead, he launched the revolution's helmsman into the global sea, turning a regional firebrand into a figure of potent world opposition. From a quiet French villa, symbolizing international resistance Khomeini's words held tenfold the power they held in a house on an Iraqi alley. And in America's citadel. What were the sounds in those marble corridors? Not clanging alarms, but a muffled, agonized debate, the terrible low pressure before the storm. Carter's circle broke in two. Some strained to hear the bark of conscience, the Shah must stop the killings or flee. Others, eyes fixed on maps, strategists hearing only dread of the vacuum, begged to cling to the battered rock they knew. Rhodes reports verse Brzezinski's memos. A thick fog of indecision. Washington was like a pilot locked in a storm, one hand hovering over the stick and one reaching futilely for the parachute cords, paralyzed by the lightning flashes. Their agonizing silence, as the walls cracked around the Shah, was interpreted in Tehran as the crumbling of his very foundation, the abandonment his adversaries declared inevitable. This hesitation, born of calculation, fed the revolutionary fervor like desert wind on fire. **4, the unseen aftermath. Tides born in shadows. Revolutions, child, are not endings, they are beginnings. Often bearing seeds the sower never planted. When fiery youngsters calling themselves students following the Imam's line scrambled over the walls of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran 11 months later, binding diplomatic hands in blindfolds, capturing meticulously catalogued shreds of history, challenging the Colossus. It felt like a bolt from an empty sky, but truly, it was lightning born from clouds of America's own making. Decades of embracing a despot, training his secret police, drawing those haunting geopolitical lines. All returned home. It was more embarrassing than Pearl Harbor, more personal. The West's own anchor, sunk so deep in Iranian soil, had become the chain binding 52 hostages for 440 for nights of anguish and shattered pride. This dense humiliation was its own awful kind of interest payment on their earlier investments. Look beyond Iran's vast mountains. By ancient Maria prayers and cassette tapes new to the Arabian Peninsula, the revolution sparked echoes in Lebanon's verdant hills, Hezbollah flowers in Shiite soil. In sandstone villages of Iraq and Bahrain, hope stirs amidst the Sunni-dominated rulers. The Shia crescent, a sliver moon reflected in teary dreaming eyes touched by Iran's triumphant glare. This potent threat spread silent panic across Riyadh, Doha, Cairo. Palaces where rulers once pitied the aging Shah now found themselves prescribed by Tehran's uncompromising stand. Petrodollar flows subtly redirected. Arms purchases made faster, hands ring at summits. How fragile the gamble, backing one king to staunch one ideology, communism, only to unleash a far more potent, enduring, and religiously driven rival. The deepest, quietest lullaby tonight is one not of glory, but profound, timeless irony. The Cold War's architects, West and East, with their vast crystalline maps and electronic eyes fixed upon each other, They played such serious games, they measured missiles and blockaded ports. They charted Iran as merely a pawn, a fortress to lock opposing knights from the board, a strategic thing. They poured power and money into its soil like anxious gardeners, and what sprouted in that soil? An immense, uncontrollable tree, bearing fruit not red or blue, but the ancient green gold of Islam 12 or Shia, a force that answered neither capital nor comrade. A power defiantly claiming ground against the great Satan and the *Taggart abomination, communism both. In trying to shape Iran as a tool against the other through Savak shadows and Soviet whispers and French sanctuaries, these distant hands together tugged loose a riptide powerful enough to wash away their pawn and then reshape an entire sea. So rest now. As the Caspian tide still lapped land once scorched by the Shah's guns, cooled by revolutionary fervor, and watched still by competing shadows. And sensed the hum of geopolitics, a low-bass drone stitching decades together, for even as history's actors exit, the stage remains tilted by every action, however distant. Good night, in this shared human theater. The curtains rise on unforeseen acts, always. Sleep now. # whispers of change, ordinary lives in revolutionary Iran ***. Imagine the voice of an elderly man, soft as worn velvet, unhurried as drifting smoke, each word carefully placed like a precious stone. The cadence is slow, deliberate, allowing pauses for reflection, like the quiet moments between breaths before sleep. Closing parenthesis ***. My dear listener, settle deeper into your pillow, let the weight of the day soften. Tonight, let us wander not beneath stars, but through the winding streets and hushed courtyards of a land caught in the whirlwind of change, Iran. A name that echoes with ancient kings and poets, yet in the latter years of the last century, it became a crucible where the very soul of a people was tested, reshaped. Not always by grand speeches and marching armies, but by the quiet tremors felt in ordinary lives. Forget, for now, the maps and the headlines. Come, listen instead to the whispers carried on the wind, the echoes in the shadows. The voices from the kitchens, the taxis, the silent bazaars. This is the story not of shahs and ayatollahs, but of the baker, the student, the grandmother. Their small worlds tilted by history's great wave. City rhythms, country silence picture, if you will. The heartbeat of Tehran, a city forever pulsing, throbbing with engines and humanity, and within this great beast, the humble taxi. A metal cocoon traversing the veins of the metropolis. Within these worn seats, beneath the gaze of faded dashboard saints, ordinary journeys became confessionals. At first, the talk was the universal language of the weary, the traffic, oh the infernal traffic. Jams snaking like lethargic serpents through the avenues. By the prophet's beard, a driver might grumble, wiping sweat from his brow. It takes longer to reach Valyasar than my grandfather took to reach Isfahan, but slowly, imperceptibly. Like water finding cracks in stone. The complaints shifted. The traffic wasn't just inconvenient, it was symptomatic. They pave roads for their own cars, a passenger might murmur, gazing out at the crawling lines, while our children choke on the fumes, a sigh. Then, lower still, they build palaces while the queues for bread grow longer. Double quotes. The taxi became a rolling rumor mill, a sanctuary where critiques of the regime, veiled in everyday frustration, passed from driver to passenger, passenger to driver. A quiet symphony of discontent conducted in meter clicks and hissed words. The car itself seemed to lean in, absorbing the secrets, carrying them silently through the surveilled streets. Far from the city's frantic hum, out where the sky presses close and the earth speaks in the rustle of wheat. Another tremor was felt. Village elders, faces like ancient walnut wood, etched deep by sun and time, would gather under the plane tree. They watched, these quiet sentinels, as the new way swept in, land reforms. Grand words on paper, promising progress. But progress, like a clumsy giant, often tramples the delicate things beneath its feet. Ancestral farming rhythms, passed down hand to hand like precious heirlooms for generations. Disrupted. Fields that knew only the patient cycle of seasons were suddenly carved up, reassigned, or swallowed by poorly planned factories coughing smoke into the clean country air. An elder might run a gnarled hand through the soil, feeling its coolness, its memory. They send tractors, he'd say softly, his voice rough as the earth itself, but they forget the soil remembers. It remembers the touch of my father's hand, the prayers whispered at planting. The silence of the countryside wasn't absence. It was the sound of deep roots straining, traditions unraveling thread by thread. Watched by eyes that held centuries of knowing, and back in the city, within the echoing stone corridors of the universities. Another kind of silence was being broken, not loudly, oh no, discreetly, in tucked-away rooms. After official lectures had ended, student poetry clubs gathered. Not the state-sanctioned verses praising revolution or piety. But words born of a different fire. Words that spoke of cages, of longing, of the weight of unseen chains. A young woman, her eyes bright with nervous courage, might unfold a sheet of paper, her fingers trembling slightly. Her voice, barely above a whisper, would fill the small space, greater than asterisk. They say the bird is free who sings within the gilded cage. Asterisk greater than asterisk. But tell me, wise one, does the sky hear its muffled rage? Asterisk the paper would be passed, hand to careful hand, like smuggled treasure, like contraband hope, each verse. A tiny spark thrown against the encroaching dark. The hallway outside might be patrolled, ears straining, but within that hushed circle, the rhythm of resistance beat softly, persistently. A counterpoint to the marching songs blaring from loudspeakers in the square. Asterisk 2. Nights of fear and hope. Asterisk. As dusk settled over Tehran, painting the rooftops in hues of violet and gold. A different scent began to mingle with the evening air. Jasmine, yes, that sweet, heady perfume climbing garden walls. But beneath it, acrid and insistent, drifted the unmistakable sting of tear gas. It came on warm nights, carried on gentle breezes that should have brought only the scent of night-blooming flowers. Instead, it seeped into apartment courtyards where families gathered for supper. Children would wrinkle their noses, puzzled. Mothers would exchange swift, worried glances, silently urging the little ones inside. Fathers might stand for a moment longer on the balcony, gazing towards the distant glow of streetlights where shadows moved and shouts echoed faintly. The sweetness of jasmine and the bitterness of conflict. Forever intertwined in the memory of those evenings. A reminder that revolution wasn't just banners and slogans. It was the taste of the air you breathed, sharp on the tongue, inside those apartments, behind drawn curtains that felt terribly thin. Families would huddle, not around the television, too dangerous to monitored, but around an old radio, its dial carefully tuned, searching through the crackling static for a lifeline. The voice of the BBC Persian service. Crisp, calm, reporting from afar. It became a nightly ritual, sacred in its quiet intensity. Heads bent close, ears straining. Voices lowered to the faintest murmur, lest the walls themselves betray them. Listen. They say in ISFAHAN. A child might be drowsing on a lap, unaware of the tension humming in the adults around them. Every word from that distant broadcaster was a piece of a puzzle, a confirmation of rumors, a fragile thread connecting them to a world beyond the fear. The informants were everywhere, they whispered, the shopkeeper, the neighbor, perhaps even a cousin. Trust was a precious commodity, doled out in whispers and shared radio waves. And then came the shortages. The tightening grip, flour, sugar, rice. Staples vanishing from shelves, replaced by ration coupons flimsy as autumn leaves. Yet, in this shared hardship. A different kind of warmth flickered. Neighbors, who might have exchanged only polite nods across courtyards, began to knock softly on doors. Sister. We have a little extra flour this week. Your children. A small bag, passed quickly, gratefully received. Brother. Our ration for rice. Perhaps together. Double quotes coupons pooled. Resources shared. The simple act of breaking bread took on profound meaning. A shared flatbread, baked in one oven from combined ingredients, became more than sustenance. It became a sacrament of community, a silent pact forged in adversity. We eat together tonight, it said, without words. We survive together, in the pooling of coupons, in the shared warmth of a communal oven. Trust was rebuilt, brick by humble brick. Stronger, perhaps, than any ideology shouted from the rooftops. 3. Generational divides asterisk asterisk within the sanctuary of homes another quiet revolution simmered. It played out not in streets, but in living rooms thick with unspoken tension. Young people their spirits yearning for horizons wider than those prescribed. They embraced the forbidden fruits whispered about, the driving beat of Western rock music smuggled on cassettes, the defiant drape of blue jeans hidden beneath long coats. To them, it wasn't rebellion for rebellion's sake. It was air, it was the feeling of a world beyond walls. A young man might carefully lower the volume on his smuggled cassette player, the distorted chords of Led Zeppelin a thrilling secret beneath his headphones. His father, sitting across the room mending a shoe, might glance up, his brow furrowed not in anger, but in profound bewilderment. That noise, boy, he might sigh, shaking his head. What happened to the Santur? To Hafez, tradition, for the older generation, was a warm cloak, familiar and comforting. For the young, it could feel like a stifling shroud. This quiet culture war waged over music, over clothing, over the very definition of freedom leaving both sides feeling misunderstood, adrift in the same small room, and the women. The women navigated currents more treacherous still. Imagine a university lecturer, her mind sharp, her arguments honed in debates about philosophy or law. By day, she navigated the complex world of academia, perhaps even a government office. Her headscarf a necessary uniform, but as twilight fell, she might shed that professional skin, not for rest, but for another kind of gathering. Slipping through shadowed alleyways, she'd arrive at a nondescript door. Inside, a clandestine religious study circle, here, amidst trusted sisters. The focus wasn't state-sanctioned dogma, but deep theological inquiry, mystical poetry, discussions of faith that questioned the very interpretations wielded by the new authorities. Rumi's ecstatic verses about divine love became subtle critiques of earthly tyranny. Discussions of Fatima's strength resonated as calls for female agency. Her dual life wasn't hypocrisy. It was survival, a way to nourish both intellect and spirit in a landscape that sought to confine both. Meanwhile, in the bustling heart of commerce the bazaar, for centuries, its labyrinthine alleys had been the true pulse of the nation, a world governed by its own unwritten codes of trust and trade. When the great strikes came a powerful, wordless protest. The merchants performed a profound act of silence. Not with shouts, but with latches, one by one. Heavy wooden shutters would descend, the clatter of commerce ceased. The vibrant tapestry of carpets, spices, copperware vanished behind blank facades. The silence of the empty stalls was deafening. It spoke of withheld labor, withheld consent. The merchants, often pillars of conservatism, understood the power of the purse, the language of absence. Their closed shops weren't just protests. They were voids, eloquent in their emptiness, speaking louder than any angry chant could hope to. It was the economy itself holding its breath, for echoes in the ordinary can you hear it? Drifting on the dawn breeze, the rhythmic thud of marching feet. Fading now, retreating like a tide after a night-long vigil. The streets they leave behind are not empty. They are strewn with the fragile casualties of fervor, wilted flowers, trampled petals, perhaps a single discarded shoe. Symbols of passion spent, of hope momentarily ascendant, before the harsh light of day returned. These remnants more poignant than any monument. They spoke of bodies pushed to the limit, of voices raised until hoarse, of a belief powerful enough to keep people standing through the cold night and the inevitable, weary return to homes that might now feel smaller, quieter, and what followed the great surge. Not peace, not clarity but a kind of hangover. The early euphoria, that intoxicating sense of boundless possibility it began to curdle debates. Once focused on grand ideals of justice and self-determination, shrunk down to the intimate, the personal, the inescapable. The exact fold of AHEADSCARF suddenly a battleground of identity and control. The scrape of a chair at midnight was it just a neighbor, or the feared Comey patrol? Empowered to enforce morality at the doorstep? The revolution's promise began to fray at the edges, revealing new constraints woven into the fabric of daily life. The shadow of the before was replaced, not by pure light, but by a different kind of shade. People who had marched shoulder to shoulder found themselves eyeing each other warily across new ideological divides. Is this asterisk, the whispers began, what we bled for? Which brings us, gently, to the quietest question of all. The one that lingers in the space between waking and dreaming, asked not on platforms, but on pillows in the dark. Did the revolution truly break the chains? Or did it, in its fiery passage, merely forge new ones? Did it promise liberation, only to deliver a different set of walls? The baker kneading his dough at dawn, the student memorizing forbidden verses, the grandmother praying for her grandson avoiding the draft. Each carried their own answer, unspoken, folded into the quiet rituals of survival, liberation. A word as vast as the sky, for some, it meant casting off a tyrant. For others, it meant the freedom to choose their own path, their own music, their own thoughts. For many, it remained a distant star, its light reaching them delayed, filtered through layers of new realities, its promise echoing faintly in the ordinary struggles of their days. So, my dear listener. As the night deepens and your eyelids grow heavy, hold these whispers close. Remember the taxi driver's veiled sigh, the elder's hand in the troubled soil, the student's trembling verse. Recall the mingled scent of jasmine and tear gas, the hushed voices around the radio, the shared warmth of bread baked from pooled flour. Feel the tension in the living room, the lecturer's dual life, the profound silence of the shuttered bazaar. See the wilted flowers at dawn, feel the weight of the new debates, ponder the quiet question hanging in the air. History, you see, is not only written in treaties and battles. It is etched in the lines on a grandmother's face as she listens for footsteps in the night. It resonates in the arguments over music drifting from a teenager's room. It is carried in the scent of bread shared between neighbors who have learned the true meaning of trust. These are the echoes that linger. The whispers from the shadows. The quiet testament of ordinary lives, navigating extraordinary storms. Sleep now. And may your dreams be gentle. May they wander through moonlit courtyards where jasmine still blooms, undisturbed. And remember, change, like the turning of the earth, is often felt first in the smallest tremors. In the whispers carried on the wind, long before the storm arrives. Rest well. The stories will wait for another night. The monarch's isolation, autocracy's slow unraveling. Imagine the soft creak of a rocking chair, a whisper of pages turning, and a voice like worn velvet, slow and deep, carrying the weight of years, beside a quiet hearth. Closing parenthesis. The scent of jasmine drifts in through the open window, a fragile sweetness on the cooling night air. It mingles with the dust motes dancing in a slant of moonlight. Gather near, then, and let an old man revisit a tapestry woven with threads of ambition and solitude, power, and its peculiar, muffling silence. Tonight, we step not among stars, but into the gilded halls and sun-baked alleyways of a kingdom trembling on the edge, to ponder the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. His story. It is a slow, deep sigh of a tragedy, a lesson carved in the hard marble of isolation. For listen, no fortress, however secure, can truly shelter a monarch from the wind of change when he forgets the ground upon which his throne stands. Sky. The mirage woven in gold and precarity. Picture, if you will, the vast silence of the MARVDASHT plane in the autumn of 1971. Not a quietude of peace, but a held breath. Against the timeless dust and stone relics of ancient Persepolis, kings and emperors were conjured anew. Canopies shimmered like captured stars, silver cutlery gleamed beneath crystal chandeliers that defied the desert night. Lavish dishes traveled across continents to grace tables where Europe's crowned heads toasted a legacy reaching back to 1,500 years. This was the Shah's vision. The Persepolis celebration. It was meant to be a thunderous declaration. Behold, it proclaimed, the rebirth of the Persian lion, a modern Cyrus walks among you. Yet, my child, turn your gaze just beyond the flickering torches of the ruins. In the surrounding villages, under the timeless gaze of those ancient, silent Achaemenid kings squatting on their hillside, there was no truffle soup, no doves carved from ice, there was the gnawing emptiness of bellies, the sting of rising prices, felt in mud brick houses where smoke hung heavy from meager fires. The roar of generators powering this fantasy paradise felt like an insult to those who still lived by the rhythm of the sun. The Shah saw glory reflected in the champagne flutes of his guests. He saw steel factories, modern armies, universities rising. But he was blinded by the mirage of modernity a dazzling oasis that cast long, dark shadows on the poverty it ignored. He built skyscrapers, yet failed to build a foundation of shared dignity, and in his fervor to break what he saw as chains of the past, he struck at unseen roots. He decreed a new imperial calendar severing the fragile, living thread connecting his people's daily lives to the rhythms of their faith. Sacred mourning rites, the powerful, raw Ashura processions where a community pours out its soul in shared lament, were suppressed, deemed disruptive, archaic shadows on the bright face of progress. Each ban, each erasure of a symbol precious to the pious heart, was a silent crack spreading across the ground where his throne stood. Alienating the keepers of the soul, the clerics who felt the pulse of the bazaars and the quiet desperation of the devout, was like severing the vital nerves leading back to his own palace. A cruel, private shadow compounded this blindness. Deep within, though rarely acknowledged even to himself, a dull ache gnawed. Cancer. His body, like his kingdom, carried a hidden fissure. The weight of it stole breath, sapped resolve. Decisions made in the fog of sickness or the haze of potent medicines became hesitant or strangely detached, like a man trying to steer a ship in a storm while looking through frosted glass. His isolation became physical as well as political, a buffer muffling not just the cries from the streets, but the very intuition needed to navigate the impending storm. *2. Deafness in the halls of power within the marble halls of the Nayavaran Palace, the air hummed with curated harmony. Reports arrived, polished like the mirrors lining the corridors, reflecting only the image the Shah wished to see. But if one listened, truly listened, beneath the murmur of compliant ministers, another sound was growing. It was the murmur turning into a roar outside, fed by pain and fear. To control this discord, the Shah wielded a terrible rod. Savak. Its men moved with chilling efficiency. Dissent, criticism, whispers of opposition were met not with reasoned argument, but with the cold, hard tools of a security state, the damp walls of Evan prison, the bite of electrodes, the suffocating dread of the unseen torture chamber. The Shah, perhaps, heard only the resulting surface silence. He saw order maintained, but in the darkened corners of homes across Iran, the names of those who disappeared sprouted powerful meaning. Wives became widows. Sons became sons of martyrs. Every broken body dragged before dawn created 10, 100, 1,000 more voices seething with fury. A funeral procession, choked with grief and holy rage, became more potent than any printed leaflet. How could the ruler not hear the thunder building within these sacred silences? His sycophants assured him it was but the murmurs of the ungrateful few. He heard the echo of his own desire for control, not the piercing cries of the wounded faithful rising from the streets of Qom or Tabriz. Economic storms brewed as well. Wise men, elders with ledgers and concern etched on their faces, cautiously approached. "Your Majesty," they might murmur, "the oil riches flow, yes, but we build too fast. Prices, they fly like startled doves." The humble baker, the shepherd's family, the value of their coin melts like snow. These men spoke uncomfortable truths, saw the inflation eroding the very fabric of society the Shah believed he was weaving. What was their rewarder to be dismissed, banished from the inner circle, sent into the very discontent they sought to warn against? Nasiri, head of Savak, fed fears of conspiracies, while advisors who spoke of bread prices were cast as weaklings. The echo chamber grew tighter, the real voices fading to mere background static. And through this gilded isolation moved his beloved companion, the Empress Farah, a queen of grace and intellect. She championed culture, preserving ancient treasures, building museums, fostering art, worthy endeavors in a peaceful realm. But in the gathering dusk, to the woman who hawked her silver bracelets to buy flour, the opulent Shiraz festival, graced by foreign artists oblivious to local strife, could feel like salt rubbed in an open wound. Her grand projects, however well-intentioned, became symbols of the palace of the moon to distant, to crystalline, floating far above the gritty reality where most Iranians dwelled. Their suffering seemed unseen from such celestial heights. ***3. The fatal delay, the illusion of control when the pressures finally cracked the dam in 1978, breaching the palace walls themselves. The Shah moved like a man wading through deep, clinging mud. Monumental misjudgment colored his actions. He ordered the release of political prisoners, perhaps believing this gesture would prove his tolerance, would spread immediate calm like soothing oil on troubled waters. He mistook a desperate reprieve for profound gratitude. He failed to grasp that those who emerged from Evan's shadows were not grateful supplicants, but living banners of his injustice, voices now freed to join the swelling chorus outside. It was water poured on a desert hardened by drought. It vanished instantly, leaving the earth just as parched, seeking to douse the rising fire of religious fervor. He grasped at a name palatable to the clergy. Jafar Sharif Imami, a man rumored to have ties to the bazaar and piety. Appease them was the plan, but the monarch, bewildered now, deeply ill and surrounded by confused counsel, simultaneously declared martial law Troops patrolled squares with fixed bayonets. The bloody massacre of Black Friday at Yalev Square, where unarmed protesters were felled by soldiers, unfolded under this uneasy, contradictory state. Sharif Imami knelt in prayer 1 hour, while state forces opened fire the very same afternoon. It was a dance of conciliation led by the iron fist, a motion without direction, a signal of utter confusion. Merely exposing the yawning gulf between palace hopes and the rage in the streets, the whispers of advisers grew frantic. Compromise, Your Majesty, reform. Concede to save the dynasty, but the Shah was trapped within the elegant cage of his self-image as the divinely ordained heir of Cyrus. Surrender felt like undoing his father's legacy, his own life's work. He hesitated, eternally trying to placate without relinquishing, to open a door while leaving his boot firmly planted in the jamb. His attempts at political solution were like trying to rebuild a shattered vase with trembling hands. The pieces refused to hold, and so came the final, hollow gesture. January 1979, crowds engulfed Tehran, chanting prayers of revolution. Decisions were made not from strength, but profound disorientation and an unspoken fear. He left, with Empress Farah and their children, on vacation, a temporary sojourn. A strategic withdrawal, yet everyone knew, he knew. There was no luggage for a traveler eager to return. There was only the hollow clunk of the airplane door sealing shut, the roar of engines drowning out the roar of the crowd far below. He left behind no clear instructions, no regent empowered to act for his crown, no stage properly set for closure or restoration. It was a disappearance not a departure. A king vanished into the lonely sky, leaving a country holding its breath before the deluge, the ultimate consequence of decisions deferred, truths ignored, isolation unbroken. Ivy, mother. Father, we are homeless, the exile and the echoes In the hushed breeze of Cairo, near the life-giving Nile, the Shah and his empress found refuge. A borrowed palace view exchanged for Tehran's mountaintop perch. Sunlight streamed onto pages where he dictated memoirs, his voice perhaps lower, raspier now. What echoes filled his quiet room? Not the adoring crowds chanting Javed Shah, long live the king, but the restless murmur that had chased him away. Where had loyalty frayed? He traced the threads of failure back to plots, for in betrayal, always the fault lay elsewhere, beyond the comforting walls of self. He walked the shaded paths, perhaps, a man prematurely aged under the Egyptian sun. Before him stretched the paradox of his reign Enduring structures stood, massive dams that tamed ancient rivers, steel mills forging Iran's industrial spine, universities nurturing young minds. Tangible testaments to ambition, yet equally real were the prison blocks, the silenced clerics, the intelligence files thick with names, the silenced poets, the widows wailing. Progress, yes, built on bullets and barricaded hearts. The very speed of his thrust toward modernity had outpaced the slow processes of trust and cultural accommodation, leaving broken connections in his wake. He was both the builder and the jailer, a duality impossible to escape, and as the whisper subsided, replaced only by the sound of palm fronds outside his window. Perhaps the greatest lullaby of reflection began its melancholy song. A question sung by the desert wind itself. Asterisk asterisk, can absolute power, cloistered and sure, ever truly hear the whispers of change? Can it bend, adapt? Before the storm breaks, asterisk asterisk, power builds walls, my dear listener. It builds palaces for the eyes and fortresses for the heart. But in those very walls, an echo chamber grows, amplifying the ruler's own fears, his grand designs, his certainties, while filtering out the vital, chaotic symphony of his people's lives. The cries of the hungry become muted through layers of adulation and fear. Dissent becomes treason smoothed into oblivion by devoted courtiers. The Shah, high above the dusty lanes of Isfahan, barely felt the tremors until the earth cracked beneath his gilded feet. Asterisk asterisk, the voice softens further, becoming almost a whisper, blending with the chirping of crickets outside. Asterisk asterisk, so rest now, loved one. Let the rustle of the leaves outside be a reminder. True strength lies not merely in towers and titles, but in the quiet courage to listen. To truly listen, not just for applause, but for the unsettling murmur beneath it. For the wind, carrying news from forgotten valleys, changes course long before the sturdest oak senses the shift in its roots. Absolute power builds castles, but isolation resides within its strongest keep. The Shah dreamed of emperors past, while the future passed him by, murmuring in the alleyways, gathering strength in silence, until it became a roar that could no longer be shut out. Sleep peacefully. What noise might we be failing to hear? Threads of rebellion, Marxists, liberals, and Islamists unwoven. Asterisk asterisk, imagine the voice of an elderly sage, speaking slowly and softly, like embers glowing in a hearth, each word given space to settle in the quiet room. Asterisk asterisk, ah, my dear listener, come closer to the warmth. Tonight, let us contemplate not stars, but souls. Not the vastness of space, but the intricate weave of human yearning. We shall unfurl a tapestry, a heavy, complex thing, woven in the heat of revolution. Picture it hanging before your mind's eye, rich, frayed, stained with hope and sorrow. Its name Kiran, in the tumultuous years leading to 1979. This tapestry wasn't woven with a single thread, you see. No, it was a desperate, clashing confluence of many colors. Marxists whispering of class struggle, liberals dreaming of constitutions, Islamists proclaiming divine mandate. They tangled, knotted, and for a fleeting moment, seemed one before the fabric tore. Let us gently trace these threads, feel their texture, understand how they briefly intertwined, and why they unraveled. Asterisk asterisk, the secular strand. Whispers of a different dawn. Asterisk asterisk, close your eyes. Feel the cool stone corridors of Tehran University, circa 1975. Smell the ink and dust of forbidden texts. Here, amidst the hushed arguments in dimly lit cafeterias, thrived the asterisk secular strand. Asterisk. These were minds shaped by a different history, a different dream of Persia. First, the quieter voices, often overlooked amidst the clamor. The asterisk asterisk National Front remnants. Asterisk asterisk. Picture them: lawyers, professors, doctors, middle-class souls, their fathers perhaps having stood with Mossadegh under that other sun. That hopeful dawn of 1953 when oil was nationalized and democracy seemed possible. Before the CIA's coup, like a sudden nightfall, extinguished it. Their thread the deep burgundy, the color of aged wine and faded constitutions. They yearn not for rupture, but restoration. A asterisk constitutional monarchy. Asterisk, they whispered, a return to the path Mossadegh walked. Parliament supreme, the Shah diminished, rights enshrined. Their rebellion was measured, legalistic, spoken in careful Persian, quoting Enlightenment philosophers alongside ancient Persian poets like Ferdowsi. They dreamed of a Persia modern yet rooted, free yet ordered. A dream as fragile as antique parchment, but alongside them, vibrating with raw energy, were the fiery threads of the asterisk asterisk university's leftist incubators. Asterisk asterisk. Ah, the youth, feel their restless energy, their anger sharp as broken glass. They devoured Marx, Lenin, Che Guevara. Imperialism wasn't a theory. It was the American boots on their soil, the Savak torturer's shadow. Two groups pulsed strongest, the asterisk asterisk Fede Enekalq asterisk asterisk people's devotees, their thread a stark, uncompromising crimson, pure Marxist-Leninists. They saw the world through the lens of class war. The Shah, the puppet of Western capital, revolution. An armed uprising of workers and peasants. Their pamphlets were blueprints for guerrilla war. Their heroes were Viet Cong fighters. Then, the more complex hue, the **Mujahideen Khalq**. Their thread was a curious, shimmering blend, deep Islamic green shot through with revolutionary red. They sought a synthesis. Imagine earnest young men and women, heads bent over Quranic verses **and **das Kapital. They argued, true Islam was revolutionary socialism, oppression was un-Islamic, justice demanded upheaval. They quoted Ali Shariati, more of him soon, alongside Marx. Their rebellion wasn't just against the Shah, but against *traditionalist clerics they saw as complicit. Their pamphlets spoke of armed struggle too, but framed it as *jihad for the oppressed masses. And woven subtly, persistently, through both these secular threads, was another, often softer, yet fiercely bright, the feminist voices *. Picture the brave women, students, professionals, activists. They marched not just against the Shah, but against centuries of constraint. Their thread was a vibrant gold. They demanded equality, in law, in education, in the workplace. They shouted slogans for the right to divorce, to child custody, against forced veiling. They saw the revolution as a chance to tear down patriarchal walls. Their voices rose in universities, in nascent women's groups, their demands printed on leaflets, fluttering like hopeful butterflies. Butterflies that, alas, would soon find the air turn hostile. **2. The Islamic core, the resonance of faith and fury now. Shift your gaze away from the university's electric buzz, into the shadowed, cool spaces of calm seminaries. Smell the wax of candles, the old paper of religious texts, hear the low murmur of prayer. Here pulse the Islamic core **, a thread not of ink, but of deep indigo faith, shot through with veins of fiery rebellion. At its most uncompromising pole stood Ayatollah Khomeini exiled in Najaf, then Paris. His thread was a profound, unyielding navy blue, the color of deepest night. His doctrine, **Vali Etifaki**, guardianship of the Islamic jurist. Imagine it not as a political theory, but as a divine command echoing through centuries. The Shah's secular rule, illegitimate. God's law, the Sharia, administered by the most learned cleric the **Faqih**, was the only rightful authority. Khomeini spoke not of parliaments or class struggle, but of sin, corruption, and submission to God's will. His cassette figure, broadcast on smuggled cassette tapes, became a beacon for millions of devout poor, the traditional bazaars, the rural masses for whom Islam wasn't politics, but identity, solace, and truth. His voice was a deep gong, resonating in hearts shaped by centuries of Shia tradition and martyrdom, but bridging the chasm between the seminary's indigo and the university's crimson was another thread. Astonishingly vibrant, **Ali Shariati's red Shiism, Shariati, a sociologist, a spellbinding orator. Picture him lecturing to packed halls in Tehran, his words like sparks igniting tinder. His thread was a dynamic purple, blending revolutionary red with Islamic blue. He didn't just quote Marx **and the Quran. He reinterpreted Shia Islam itself. He spoke of Imam Hussein not merely as a martyr, but as history's ultimate revolutionary, standing against tyranny. He decried the Safavid Islam of the passive clergy, calling instead for an Alawite Islam, dynamic, socially conscious, revolutionary **. Poverty wasn't fate, it was injustice to be fought. Oppression wasn't God's test, it was Satan's work to be overthrown. Every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala. He thundered, transforming a mourning ritual into a call for perpetual rebellion. To the disillusioned youth, alienated by both the Shah's Westoxification ** and the traditional clergy's perceived passivity, Shariati offered a potent elixir, Islam as revolution. He made faith resonate with their fury against imperialism and inequality, and underpinning this powerful resurgence was the ancient, pragmatic **, Bazaar Mosque Alliance **. Feel the worn stone floors of Tehran's Grand Bazaar, smell spices, leather, the metallic tang of money. The bazaars, merchants, traders, guildmasters, were the financial backbone. Their thread, a sturdy, earthy brown, woven with strands of gold coin. Historically conservative, deeply religious, they chafed under the Shah's modernizing reforms, his favoring of big industry, his secularizing tendencies that eroded their social standing. They saw their world, built on faith, trust, and tradition, threatened. So, their wealth flowed into the coffers of the mosques and the seminaries. They funded the printing of Khomeini's sermons, the distribution networks for Shariati's tapes, the soup kitchens that sustained the poor faithful. This wasn't just piety, it was a merger of economic grievance and spiritual dissent. The mosque provided moral authority and mobilization. The bazaar provided the means, a powerful, ancient symbiosis reborn in rebellion. ***3. The fragile knot, when threads tangled in common fury***. Now, feel the heat rising. The year is 1978. The Shah's grip is slipping. The streets of Tehran, Isfahan, Tabriz are rivers of humanity. Can you hear it? A million footsteps? A roar of anger that shakes the very ground. This is where the impossible happened. The fragile not see the astonishing sight. Marxist guerrillas faces obscured by scarves, moving furtively through alleyways at dusk. They paste up posters depicting clenched fists and calls for armed struggle. Right beside verses from the Quran denouncing tyranny. They distribute pamphlets analyzing imperialist exploitation. Pamphlets that end up tucked into the pockets of devout bazaris heading to the mosque. Then, watch the vast marches. Mullahs black turbans stark against the crowd, leading chants of Allahu Akbar. From the front, behind them, marching shoulder to shoulder. University students shouting Shariati slogans, feminists holding banners demanding freedom, National Front lawyers in suits, and Fedayeen militants scanning the rooftops for Savak snipers. Bound together, however uneasily, by one searing emotion, hatred of the Shah the ideological ambiguity was breathtaking. Look at the protest signs, a stenciled image of Che Guevara revolutionary icon, right next to a calligraphic verse from the Quran Marg Bar Shah, death to the Shah, roared from secular throats and religious ones alike. Shariati's red Shiism provided the crucial lexicon, the shared metaphors that allowed Marxists to hear echoes of class struggle in the story of Karbala, and allowed Islamists to frame their fight as one for social justice against a godless oppressor. It was a fleeting harmony born of necessity, a temporary suspension of disbelief. The tapestry, for a brief, luminous moment, seemed whole, a magnificent, chaotic banner of unified defiance against a common enemy, the not held ... but only just. Beneath the surface, the threads pulled against each other. The Marxist dreamed of a workers' state, the liberal of a constitutional republic. The Islamist of God's government on earth. Their visions of the future were fundamentally, irreconcilably, different. *4, dreams deferred, the unraveling, and the echoes *, the Shah fled. The fever broke ... February 1979, victory. But in the cold light of dawn, the fragile knot began to fray, then snap violently. The post-revolution fractures *, were swift and brutal. Khomeini and the clerical establishment, backed by the organized power of the mosques and the bazaris, moved with decisive force. The ***, Islamists began marginalizing the leftists ***. Revolutionary courts sprung up, leftist publications were shuttered, Fedayeen and Mujahideen offices were raided. Their dream of a socialist vanguard evaporated. The *** feminist voices *** were drowned out. That hopeful gold thread was buried under a wave of enforced hijab decrees and the rolling back of family protection laws. The *** liberals outmaneuvered. Their dream of a constitutional monarchy died with the Shah's departure. Their hopes for a secular republic were dashed as Khomeini's vision of an Islamic republic took concrete shape. The coalition's core was exposed as purely transactional united only by the negative force of opposition. With the Shah gone, the positive visions clashed, and the strongest thread prevailed, even the grand document meant to bind them, the Constitution became a testament to compromise and contradiction. On paper, democratic structures, the president, a parliament Majlis but hovering above them, wielding ultimate power. The Guardian Council a body of clerics and Islamic jurists. Their thread, that deep, unyielding indigo, was woven right into the fabric, granting them a veto over any law deemed incompatible with Sharia or the interests of the Islamic system. Democratic aspirations yielded, again and again, to the primacy of the faqih. The secular strands weren't erased, but subsumed, constrained, rendered decorative. We are left with lullabies of lost alternatives Drift now, with these whispers. What if? What if the secular forces the National Front's liberals, the vibrant feminists, had found stronger unity? Could they have steered the revolution towards a Turkish or Indian model, democratic, secular, yet culturally rooted? Or what if the Marxists the Fedayeen and Mujahideen had been shrewder, more organized? Could they have outmaneuvered the clergy, turning the revolutionary fervor towards a socialist republic, perhaps aligned with Moscow? Or what if Shariati's Red Shiism had truly taken root, forging a lasting synthesis where mosques became centers for both prayer and land reform, where faith fueled social justice without stifling freedom? These are the phantoms that dance in history's twilight. They speak of paths not taken, dreams dissolved like salt in the revolutionary tide. They remind us, softly, subtly, of history's oldest whisper about revolutions They are fierce, devouring flames, and so often, tragically, they consume their own children The Marxists who distributed pamphlets beside the mosques found themselves hunted by the very state they helped create. The liberals who dreamed of law saw their courts overruled by theology. The feminists who marched for freedom saw new walls rise. Epilogue. The tapestry unfurled so, my dear listener, the tapestry hangs before us still. Its colors are no longer blended in hopeful chaos, but arranged in a stark, dominant pattern. The deep indigo of Vilayat. Key forms the overwhelming background. Faint traces of burgundy, crimson, purple, and gold remain, threads of secular aspiration, socialist memory, Shariati synthesis, feminist resilience, visible only upon close inspection, like stubborn dyes that refuse to fade completely. It tells a story, not just of Iran, but of all upheavals where disparate dreams collide. It speaks of the intoxicating power of unity against a tyrant, and the devastating cost when the victor's visions diverge. It reminds us that revolutions are woven not just with ideals, but with the gritty threads of power, organization, and the deep currents of history and faith that flow beneath the surface of any society. As your eyelids grow heavy, ponder this quiet truth: ideas have weight. They clash like continents, they merge like rivers, they recede like tides. The tapestry of Iran 79 shows us the beauty and the terror of that clash. It shows how easily shared hatred can bind, and how utterly, inevitably, divergent dreams must unravel. Let the image soften now. The threads blurring. The voices fading. Leaving only the gentle hum of history's loom, forever weaving, forever unwinding. Sleep now, dear listener. Sleep, and may your dreams be peaceful. Words and waves. How information moved a revolution. Imagine this spoken by a voice as deep and worn as old parchment, gentle as twilight. Each word placed with care like stones in a stream, inviting quiet reflection. Settle back now, dear listener. Let the day's edges soften. Tonight, we drift not among stars, but through the currents of human voices, of words yearning to be heard, carried on waves unseen. We journey to a time not so very long ago, to the bustling heart of Persia, beneath the watchful gaze of ancient mountains. It was a time when empires trembled, not necessarily from armies clashing, but from the relentless, subterranean surge of whispered truths and stolen signals. This is the tale of the silent surge. Ah, yes. Imagine a society where the very air felt thick with watching. Great pillars of state power, gleaming and imposing, like stern stone giants carved from certainty, the Shah sat upon the peacock throne. Symbols of a millennia past adorning a modern ambition. Order was paramount, unity, they declared it. But imagine this order imposed like a heavy velvet curtain, muffling dissent, draping over the vibrant tapestry of thought and faith. Savak, the state's silent, shifting shadow, crept through society, telephone lines, those slender threads connecting homes and hearts. They held echoes, strange clicks, sudden hollow silences that were asterisk to asterisk still, confirmed the unseen listeners. Informants bloomed like night flowers, turning neighbor against neighbor, student against teacher, whispers died in throats. A deep paranoia settled like dust over the land. Speak freely. It was to invite the shadow's cold embrace, and the written word. The newspapers. Mighty voices meant to chronicle the day's turning. But beneath the giant's foot, their ink well trembled. It was not enough to control the story. They sought to erase even the thought of disagreement. State censors, armed with thick black pens, would descend upon the presses. Articles vanished, opinions disintegrated into nothingness. But people are resilient vessels. Their protest found shape in beautiful, terrible silence. Think of opening your morning paper, dear friend, and finding not words, but blank spaces Entire columns, stark white voids glaring up from the print. No explanation, just a profound, eloquent absence. A scream etched in pure, devastating silence. It said more, that emptiness, than 1,000 fiery editorials ever could. It declared, here, something was stolen. Here, the truth was gagged, but its shape remains, yet deeper still, in the hushed corridors of universities. Behind curtains drawn tight against the enforcers' curfews, another magic unfolded. When the printed word is forbidden, the human hand becomes the press. Samizdat, they call it elsewhere, here it was simply necessity. Passionate manifestos, forbidden's poetry, sermons of exile transcribed, copied out by weary, determined hands onto thin, secret sheets. Imagine the dim light of a shielded lamp in a dormitory room, long after moonrise. The frantic scratch of pen over paper, muscle straining, eyes burning. Page after page filled, shared under desks, swapped in the quiet corners of tea houses, secreted in books deemed harmless. Each copy carried the risk of prison, or worse. Yet, those handwritten pages held the sacred fire of conviction. They were fragile, important missiles against the giant's armored certainty. They traveled unseen, passed from trembling hand to yearning hand, igniting minds in darkened rooms, a silent, potent chain of resistance woven by candlelight. **2. The people's microphones **, but voices, my dear listener, they yearn to escape confinement, they seek the air. And in a land where the mosque stands as the beating heart of community, its minaret became an unlikely masthead. The state-controlled radio and television, spinning narratives like bright, brittle glass. But the call to prayer, echoing daily over rooftops, that was enfolded within tradition. Harder to silence entirely, clever souls, they saw the instrument. Imagine the murmurs spreading through crowded alleyways. Listen. Share. Me. The mullah, speaking words of the prophet, of justice, their sermons subtly shifting, deepening. Words that resonated with the troubles of the day, amplified not just by the minaret speakers, but by the potent air of shared faith. From the minarets, they could weave poetry of defiance, indictments of turmoil wrapped in hymns. The sermons transformed, becoming coded broadcasts, far more trusted than the hollow pronouncements emanating from the state's polished studios. It wasn't mere religion. It was news, comfort, and summons, broadcast on the oldest infrastructure of all, a shared belief, carried aloft on holy sound, and then Technology offered another quiet miracle, the humble cassette tape. Small, innocuous, easily hidden in the folds of an abba, tucked beneath groceries, slipped from bag to bag. In the holy city of Najaf, far across the desert border, an exiled scholar named Khomeini spoke, his words, recorded onto these unassuming magnetic ribbons, became something potent, bottled lightning. Smugglers, couriers traveling paths known since caravan days, became bearers of revolution. Each tape was a perilous treasure. Think of the intricate dance, a whispered exchange near the spice market, a merchant slipping the flat rectangle beneath bolts of fabric, a student hiding it in a Quran's binding. Then, in darkened shops, after hours, curtains drawn tight, clustered around a cheap tape player resting on a rug. Or secret gatherings in private homes, voices hushed, listening intently as the Ayatollah's rasping, uncompromising voice filled the small room. The Shah must go. The people must stand ... double quotes over and over. These tinny, sometimes distorted recordings spread the message the state tried so hard to crush. Like nomads sharing precious sips of hidden spring water in a vast desert, cassette tapes became the lifeblood of a shared identity, whispering courage into frightened hearts across the breadth of the land. And while technology spoke from afar, the streets themselves began to chatter, not with voices at first, but with pigment and daring. In the dead of night, when even Savak's shadows seemed to sleep, quiet figures moved along the walls of South Tehran. With hurried strokes, messages bloomed in stark paint, simple slogans that were bombshells. Asterisk strike tomorrow, solidarity. Asterisk then, lists, names of the arrested, scratched hastily onto concrete. Names of heroes lost, a public roll call the state could not erase. Crosses marking spots where blood stained the pavement. Each morning dawned with fresh communiques, sprayed under moonlight. Graffitied walls became the city's desperate, urgent notice board, a flickering, ephemeral news service, updated nightly, reporting the pulse of a revolution the censored papers refused to name. It was raw, immediate, found poetry written by the dispossessed upon their own bleeding city. Asterisk 3. International echoes asterisk now. Cast your thoughts wider ... Beyond those troubled borders, across deserts, mountains, vast oceans. For repression in the age of waves cannot be wholly contained. Voices leak, echoes find purchase beyond the wall. The BBC Persian service, a crackling lifeline beamed from faraway London, became utterly essential. State radio bleated its selective truths, but the shortwave. Oh, amid the static, the whistles and pops that danced across the ionosphere at night, authoritative Persian voices spoke a different narrative. Cymbals would twist indoors as dusk fell. The old family radio dragged close, volume dialed low. Listeners huddled like conspirators, ear pressed against the cloth-covered speaker. London radio, they'd whisper. What did London say? About strikes, about protests, about the Shah's words. Against the regime's shrill broadcasts, the measured tone of the BBC, with its reports verified, its analysis measured though never neutral, became an anchor of reality for millions. It wasn't merely news, it was confirmation. It validated the whispers, the graffiti, the tales told behind closed doors. In the static-filled darkness, fractured signals carried reassurance. Asterisk you are not alone. Your struggle is seen, asterisk, and across the wide waters, amongst the bright lights and unfamiliar rhythms of Los Angeles and Paris, London and Istanbul. Those who had fled the shadow, students, intellectuals, merchants whose lives were uprooted, they too became vital nodes in this vast, pulsating network. News crossed oceans not just on airwaves, but on frail blue fold-out pages, telegrams buzzing with sparse, potent information. Panic buttons hit, frantic letters composed on thin airmail paper. And crucially, streams of currency flowing back. Funds gathered at community centers, pooling small savings into forces. Money sent through the intricate, trusting network of travelers and trusted merchants, finding its way to striking workers in refineries, to families whose breadwinners languished in prisons. Their homes and meeting halls became nerve centers, amplifying the domestic struggle onto a world stage, keeping the pressure on. An exiled scholar speaking into a microphone in Paris found his words writing the electronic currents back into the living rooms of Tehran, smuggled inside the humble cassette. The revolution pulsed on a network spanning continents, wires and whispers intertwined, and the eyes of the world, the foreign journalists, drawn like hawks to the scent of historical change. They navigated checkpoints, danced with censors, faced suspicion from all sides. Yet their cameras recorded the march of hundreds of thousands through Azadi Square, a human sea chanting, undeniable. Their pens described the scenes Savak tried to hide, protests meeting bullets, the weary defiance etched on faces old and young. Images flashed onto television screens in New York, London, Tokyo. Reports filled newspapers across the globe. Suddenly, the muted conflict within Iran became a global talking point. Diplomatic cables hummed nervously. Allies who had comfortably backed the Shah felt the uncomfortable heat of public scrutiny. Words, images, reports, these became a different kind of pressure, exerted on governments continents away. Global opinion, mobilized by dispatches and pictures, started to shape responses. *** 4. The sound of silence ***, but revolutions. They build to moments held almost outside of time. There comes a point when the fractured whispers, the roared slogans, the crackling broadcasts, and the painted pleas. They encounter the brute force of repression intent on finality. Martial law descended. Imagine the streets of Tehran, usually so vibrant with commerce and chatter, suddenly wrapped in an unearthly quiet. Soldiers stood at corners, impersonal in their helmets, rifles held ready. Tanks rumbled slowly down avenues emptied by fear. The air hung heavy with unspoken tension, a city holding its breath. It seemed, for a terrifying interlude, as if the silent surge had overwhelmed its own purpose, swallowed by fear. But stillness, my dear listener, can be deceptive. It is not always absence, it can be profound concentration. In those hushed homes, behind drawn curtains almost touching the silent streets, plans were still passed. Names exchanged, drop points confirmed, information whispered like sacred vows on the very edge of sound. The revolution hadn't stopped, it had retreated into the profoundest silence, gathering its strength like a coiled spring beneath the heavy boot. And then, the culmination, less a bang, perhaps, than a profound dissolution. The moment arrived, captured ultimately not by zealous revolutionaries, but by the neutral glass eye of television, broadcast by the state network itself. Soldiers, young men, faces impassive, but eyes perhaps betraying uncertainty, began laying down their rifles. Setting aside their helmets, stripes torn from sleeves, simply stepping away, the cameras rolled, pointed by technicians perhaps sensing the shift. This astounding scene flickered onto television screens across the nation. Without commentary no triumphant music. No state-approved narration declaring victory. Just silent, powerful images, soldiers disarming. Ordinary citizens approaching them, sometimes embracing, sometimes just watching. It was silence amplified to deafening proportions. The image itself was the Annunciation. Words were no longer necessary, the truth blazed forth from the screen. The armored giant wasn't merely challenged, it was dissolving, silently crumbling before the nation's gaze. The metal fist was unclenching. The war was over. Consider this, as sleep begins to soften your own thoughts, revolution often roars into our minds. We think of barricades, the clamor of battle, triumphant shouts shaking ancient walls. But sometimes, sometimes, the most profound revolutions happen in the spaces between the shouts. In the mute testimony of a blank column, screaming defiance. In the intimate crackle of a bootleg tape, heard by flickering lamplight. In the ghostly crackle of a foreign broadcast finding its way through miles of darkness. In the silent, potent testimony of ink drying on unpainted concrete. In the eerie, pregnant stillness just before the dam breaks, the Iranian Revolution was ultimately orchestrated by millions, enacting a complex ballet of defiance without a single choreographer. Its surge carried not on cavalry charges, but on cassettes. Its battles were fought less with bullets than with labels on dusty spools, with hands copying manifestos until they cramped, with eyes anxiously scanning foreign radio schedules amid static. The state thundered and censored, tapped wires and sent its shadows hunting voices. Yet, the quiet river of information, finding new courses through society's cracks and gullies, the whispered networks, the smuggled tapes, the graffiti communiques, the international echoes, this river proved unstoppable. Technology offered the channels, human courage, desperation, and faith provided the inexorable flow. Like a shabby song sung low at first, then swelling until the walls tremble, the revolution found its voice not in a single clarion call, but in 1,000 small ways, building until silence itself became its most powerful testament. The giant, confronted by this intricate, silent surge, found it had nothing left to say, and no weapons that could finally defeat the simple, human need to speak, to hear, to be heard. So as the night cradles you now, remember the power that resides not only in thunder, but in the tremor. Not only in the shout, but in the careful pen, the hidden tape, the painted word under moonlight. The struggle for truth, for freedom's whisper to endure. It finds its way. It always does. Across deserts, under fear, through walls, and even within the deepest silence. The river finds its way. Drift now. Let the quiet remind you. Sleep deeply.